need to make sure IT is all set too. Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, good evening. We will call the order at 6 o'clock. And we will start with any agenda adjustments.
I don't have any unless the board does.
I'm not aware of any. Anyone else? No? Okay, so we will move to correspondence, resignations, nominations.
As the board is aware, we are presently fully staffed for our professional staff. When we get down to the discussion section, I'll go over a staffing update just to give you an idea of our para needs, because we're still down a few paras, and kitchen staff is another need.
Okay.
So there's nothing else for correspondence, resignations, and nominations.
Very good. That moves us to approval of minutes. All right, so our first one is from July 21st, 2022. I will make the motion to accept as presented. Colleen and Allison, you will have to abstain. So that's the two of us. Yes.
Yes.
You were present?
I was present.
Okay, so Colleen is present, so we will. All right, all in favor? 3, opposed, abstain? Thank you. So that's 3-0 to 1. Our next is the Brookline School Board on June 22nd, 2022. The following amendments were offered. Page 6, line 20, delete the B before because. Page 19, line 2, capitalize tier 1. Page 21, line 10, correct spacing. Page 23, line 5, delete the extra period at the end of the sentence. And page 34, line 7, replace of with on following based. So I will make the motion to accept as amended. A second. All in favor? Passes 4-0. Our next is our public hearing on June 22nd. I'll make a motion to accept as presented. Need a second? All in favor? 4-0. Then our non-public on June 22nd. I'll make the motion to accept as presented. Seconded by Karen. All in favor? Okay, 4-0. That moves us to public input. There was some...
And can I just clarify? I don't want to make a mistake. So you were talking about two different meetings. Did you go to May first? I saw June on the agenda. Because I was at June, but I wasn't at May.
started,
No, there's no way.
Okay, I just want to make sure. 'Cause it's-
there's nothing for May on here
All right,
now.
thank you. Sorry.
Okay. All right, so public input, we have obviously a public, we had some feedback last time, so I'm going to read the BEDH policy just to make sure that we are all on the same page before we get started. For those that are not aware, public input was increased from 15 to 30 minutes as a mandate from the state recently. So our public input policy has not corrected that yet, but we will be following that. All right, so the rules of order. The board will provide a maximum of 30 minutes to hear public comments from the residents at the beginning of each regular board meeting. This period may be extended by a majority vote of the board, which we did last month, or last meeting rather. Additionally, the board may include additional public comment period for specific agenda items with a time limit for public comment specified on the pertinent agenda. Individual speakers will be allotted 3 minutes per person. Speakers may not relinquish allotted time to another speaker. For specific meetings and/or specific agenda items, the board may, at the outside of the public comment period, increase the individual time. Chair will recognize speakers on a first-come, first-served basis. Speakers shall identify themselves and their home address clearly for the record. Except as otherwise provided in the policy, members of the public may offer comments on agenda items. In the interest of preserving individual privacy and due process rights, the board requests that comments, including complaints regarding individual employees other than the superintendent or individual students, be directed to the superintendent in accord with the complaint grievance resolution process set forth in School Board Policy KE. Complaints regarding the superintendent may be made either during public comment or directed to the school board as described in Board Policy KEB. Any comments which do not adhere to the above or which disrupt the official business of the board may be ruled out of order by the chair. Repeated disruption may result in the individual being asked to leave the meeting. Obscene speech, comments threatening bodily harm will not be tolerated. And last, the board may terminate the speaker's privilege or address if the speaker does not follow the rules above that we just discussed. Repeated violations may be intervention. So I just wanted to clarify that. There were some questions around those that are residents of the town of Brookline only, and also around complaints for specific individuals. The other policy that we referenced in there was KEB, public complaints about school personnel. That's on our website. If anyone has questions on that, happy to address that at another time if anyone has any questions there too. So with that, we are going to open up for public input. I just ask that you come up and please state your name and address for the record, and we will begin now. I'm sorry, there's one other point that I didn't make that I want to, but come on up, don't mean to stop you. We may not respond while you're providing public input. That's part of the process. Then we go to deliberations, and that's where the board and administration will discuss. So we're quiet, that's deliberate, and then we'll follow up with things as the public input goes. Unless there's a clarifying question, that's the only piece. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy Levitt, 2 Birch Hill Road in Brookline, and I just wanted to pop in and express my unending support and gratitude for the staff and admin and Board of Education here at RMMS and CSDA. I teach in the Nashua District. I've been a teacher I'm going into my 15th year, and so I know that often a school is a reflection of the community, and our kiddos bring their attitudes towards school with them. They bring their what they learn at home with them to school, and sometimes that is fantastic for building a collaborative, collegial school environment. And if there is anything that I can do other than join the PTA, because I teach 7th grade and I'm very tired, but if there's anything that the schools need in terms of supplies or support, or thank you teacher rallies, or thank you admin rallies, thank you board rallies, please let your community know. You do so much for our children and our families. We would like to extend that same support to the school and the staff and the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg McHale, 42 Westview Road. I was regretfully unable to attend the June school board meeting where concerns were raised regarding the termination of Ms. Gordon. I join the already unanimous opinion of how exemplary her performance was as a first grade teacher. My son thrived on every dimension in ways that prove she delivered a uniquely positive educational experience for each and every child in that classroom. Teachers like Ms. Gordon are the ones upon whom the reputation of this district has been built. I've read the detailed minutes of that June meeting, I've watched the live stream, I've read Mr. Corey's response to the meeting, and have tried to contemplate the question, if everyone says we have a cultural problem, what exactly are the factors in play? We all saw the chaos surrounding Ms. Gordon's resignation letter. The board's decision to press mute on Ms. Gordon, who had the courage to be in attendance that night, was beyond disappointing. Unanimously adored by parents and students, given proficient ratings at every turn, physically intimidated, inexplicably pushed out, and ultimately muzzled. I can't imagine anyone supports that kind of culture for our teachers, but here it is. The surprise of the night, however, was Mrs. Maluski's resignation. Mr. Corey, when you were asked to read that letter, you replied, "I'd be happy to," with no caveats or disclaimers. Mrs. Maluski's resignation letter contains 760 words, and you read half of them. 5 paragraphs completely skipped, as if Mrs. Maluski never wrote them. Ironic, when one of her chief complaints, you chose not to read, was, quote, negating the vital voice of teachers and support staff. The paragraphs you skipped over show someone who spent years trying to get through to her superiors and ultimately had no choice but to give up. Failures of leadership caused one of our best to withdraw from her lifelong passion, and the reasons she provided should never have to be written by an employee of this school district. One key section you opted not to read states, quote, the current pattern of hiring and firing shows failure to successfully implement and support these crucial systems. If one considers the resignations that have transpired over the course of the last 5 years, many of them have been due to the dysfunction within the district. Multiple attempts by multiple people and groups have been made to communicate and resolve the issues that are impacting staff and students. These attempts are met with denial, defensiveness, or silence. It leaves one with a sense of hopelessness as they watch things crumble. Denial, defensiveness, silence, and hopelessness as we watch things crumble. Multiple people and multiple groups trying to fix things to no avail. Erasing the words of a 22-year veteran from the record as if They were never written. I can't imagine anyone supports that kind of culture for our teachers, but here it is. The spiderweb that has been woven has our district in a complete stalemate. We are positioned such that supporting teachers, supporting administrators, and supporting school board members are somehow concepts that are at odds, and it feels awful. A healthy culture would have no friction in our ability to support all of these groups, but when great teachers are literally running out of our doors and taking our leadership to task in their resignation letters, and the heart of your response is that everything you are doing is perfectly legal, the tone deafness these teachers speak to is validated, and we have no choice but to focus on a failure of leadership and demand change. To the school board, it seems you have trapped yourself in the flawed thinking that our teachers are infinitely disposable, but our administrators are untouchable. A balanced approach would say we want the best we can get at every level. Our teachers are telling you we don't have that today, and it's our best ones that are saying it. Our administrators aren't even batting an eye at the turnover their actions create. You should be asking a lot more questions and be willing to make changes that ensure these scenarios are never repeated. That might mean you have to replace people you happen to like personally. I'm sorry about that. It's not pleasant. Mr. Corey, you need to lead with transparency. No more half-truths or manipulations of information like what you did with Mrs. Maluski's letter. You need to level with us, and you need to lead. If you are serious about that, you will apologize to us for misleading in how you presented that letter. To the principals, I understand that there are concerns about passive-aggressive backstabbing behavior. Please listen to your teachers. They're screaming for help, literally screaming for help. To the teachers of Brookline, please help us untangle this web and move forward with the no confidence vote you have been considering as your dozens of open grievances with the administration remain unaddressed. Going through that process is not meant to be a weapon. It is to ensure that all parties treat this cultural issue with the seriousness it deserves but has not received, and everyone will come to the table for mediation and resolution through an open and transparent process. There are countless parents who will do whatever it takes to ensure the experiences of Miss Gordon, Miss Healy, Mrs. Maluski, and others are never to be repeated. That is the culture our teachers signed up for when they decided to come work in our town, and is the minimum anyone should expect in a destination district like ours. Thank you.
Good evening. Patrick McGoldrick, 17 Wildwood Drive. Here to speak on behalf of my wife, Melissa. Members of the school board, I served as the PTO treasurer during COVID, and during that time, I planned and or volunteered for every school visit, school event, and PTO community event. And even after my resignation, many of the events that I had planned and coordinated were still ones that took place after my departure. My goal was to make the school environment better for the kids and for the teachers. And through this experience of planning and volunteering, I created special bonds with some of the teachers. And as I read Ms. Maluski's and Ms. Gordon's resignation letters, I realized that the voice of the teachers needed to be heard. Ms. Maluski's refers to the last 5 years of hirings and firings, and although Mr. Corey decided to omit those words, and the school board allowed it, I read it. Ms. Maluski, if you're listening, watching us tonight, I want you to know that I read your letter and I heard your concerns. And with that inspiration, I did my own investigation to find out more about what you pointed out in your letter. So through these relationships that were cultivated on the time of the PTO, I interviewed 12 people, including current and past teachers and paraprofessionals, even some substitute teachers, to find out more about what's happening at RMMS. Some of these people had experiences in both the Hollis Primary School and RMMS, which gave a greater perspective on the differences between the two schools. Here's some of what they felt comfortable sharing. First, they feel unsupported when it comes to behaviors. One professional shared that the behaviors are not handled well in the school. There are times when the students exhibit extreme behaviors, but the disciplinary actions do not match that behavior. As one described it, behaviors that get, quote, punished by playing basketball or eating lunch with the principal, which the students thought was the greatest thing, and she was, quote, flabbergasted. Another noted, by comparison in Hollis, Bad behavior was not tolerated. If there was ever a concern, Paula Isbicki was right on it, and it was a completely different atmosphere. Second, the administration does not listen. As one teacher said, they are tone deaf as to what's going on in the classrooms, and even though we have weekly PLC meetings to discuss the issues, the administration never showed up to them. They take notes in hopes that someone will look at them. Another teacher shared, I've escalated certain issues, and in turn, the principal gaslights me and pretends I did not receive specific direction from him. Third, they feel their concerns about students are not handled properly. As one professional put it, I recommended that the students in my classroom be tested for certain special needs issues, but I was told that we do not have the resources to test those students, so the students did not receive the services that I believe they needed. Another professional went on to say, unless the parents request the special needs evaluations, the children will not be evaluated. Most requests by teachers and staff are ignored or denied. And as another professional went on to say, the principal told me that a student in my class would not receive and qualify for special services, even though he had never spent time with that student. And it turned out the student not only qualified, but also had a learning disability. Fourth, they feel they have a lack of resources. Although there's an obvious lack of paraprofessionals in the building, what the teachers can't understand is why there's no longer a tech specialist, why there's only one music teacher and one art teacher shared between RMS and CSDA. Meanwhile, the SAU continues to receive more and more administrators. The latest hire being a compliance and communications person. In addition to this, another one of the resources is their time, their planning time, which was taken away from them. They used to be able to plan during one of the two recesses, but now they have to be outside for both. This was particularly surprising because when the PTO created sign-up sheets for volunteers for lunch duty and other volunteer positions, both I and another volunteer had asked about recess specifically and were told recess was all set and they had coverage. Fifth and finally, they shared that the management and culture is poor. As one professional said, if you get on the principal's bad side, you'll know it. He'll ignore you and not make eye contact. Another said, after I turned down an assignment that he had hoped I would take, he ignored me for weeks. Another went on to say, if you challenge him, you'll be fired. The actions of the administration and principal are retaliatory. Mrs. Gordon's letter speaks to physical intimidation as well, with a hand raised to her face. Members of the school board, you really need to be meeting with the teachers. You need to listen to them and their concerns and act on them. You should be conducting interviews and be transparent with the voters as to what's happening in the schools. Our teachers deserve that support. So the teachers listening tonight, the number one thing you can do is unite and move forward with that vote of no confidence you've been considering. Second, make strong relationships with the parents. We will support you. And third, have the union back strong pro-teacher school board candidates, not just ones that'll hold an I Love Teachers sign for a Facebook picture. Lastly, to my parents out there, fellow parents, volunteer, get involved, know what's happening at the schools. Support your teachers. Don't just bake them a cupcake on Teachers Appreciation Week. We're at a point where you're either pro-Brookline teachers or pro-toxic culture, and you can't be both. Our teachers and kids deserve better. Thank you.
Hi, Christine Murray. I'm not only a town resident, but I'm also a teacher at RMMS. I was not here for the full discussion. I apologize about that. I came in part way. The parts that I did hear, I would suggest that perhaps there should be some interviews with teachers who have been with the district for a significant amount of time. I'm going to my 20th year, I believe, in a few days. And I believe that they should be checking with teachers that know what the culture has been in our district, not only now, but then, who also can speak to the support we get emotionally, socially, and supporting our students first and foremost in our schools. I'm saddened, and I actually think that there's a lack of understanding of some parents, not all. We are supported by so many unfortunately, it is that 1% that knows very little factually, and as someone referenced Ms. Gordon, perhaps they should do a little bit of background information, as I have learned from a colleague, that some people in our district who are no longer with us are on their 4th or 5th job in a 7-year period. So if we think about people who perhaps have been let go, perhaps we need to do a little background information on who they are and what the backgrounds that they have are, and why they are no longer with us or the previous districts. Again, I encourage you to speak with teachers who have been here not in 2 years, and I would also put that, and want to state very strongly, that one teacher that has left us did leave, perhaps because the culture was not what it was, but I would also stress that if you look anywhere in the district, in our country, our state, you put it out there, the last few years have been awful in education. It has been trying for parents, it has been trying for teachers, administrators, and students alike. So I ask you not to look at what you might have seen, or think you have seen, or think you know better than those of us who are living it daily, who are in 100% of our administration, continue to be 100% in support of our administration. And for those of you who are speaking ill of them, I would suggest that perhaps you do a little bit more delving in yourself to people who do believe that we are working with fantastic administrations. Thank you.
So funny because Griffin actually calls the librarian at the school the swearing librarian and refers to her as one of the yelling teachers. So that's really interesting. I have a bunch of
I'm sorry,
copies.
can you like not keep those, like, you need to be respectful of people if you
I
have
am
a-
respectful.
If you have a problem with a specific person, as in the policy.
These are things I brought up with Dan in the past, but they've gone unaddressed. But
Then you need to take it through the proper channels. We read the policy
Yep.
at the beginning of the meeting.
Yep.
I need you to follow along with that.
okay.
Please state your name, if you could, please.
Rebecca Liedberg, 5 Clover Hill Way.
Thank you.
You guys have this information, but now it's organized, so you can see it. Quite certain you have this. I'm the proud wife of a middle school math teacher who has taught for 14 years and who was coach of the year after 14 years of coaching 2 sports at a school in his teaching district. I'm a clinical oncology specialist. I help most Mass General Hospital doctors with their oncology testing. I'm passionate about supporting teachers and students because this has been a part of my life. We're not here to complain. We are here to discuss some of the information that we have now that we've had time to gather and come together to recognize that there is a problem so that we can fix it. Resist the urge to judge and criticize those of us parents who have dedicated time and energy to identifying these problems and making others aware. We do not have some hidden agenda, trust me. We would prefer to be spending time with our families and doing our own work instead of this. We are not here to point fingers. We are here because we bought into the reputation of this destination district, and our experiences have contradicted our most basic expectations. We are here because once we make the board and the administration aware of these problems, we are going to come up with a plan to fix them. Please see your test score graphs. As one example, and only one example, these are the ELA state assessment scores for reading. To my knowledge, this is the only state standardized test at the early elementary school level that provides an insight into how our students perform in language arts as it compares to other schools in New Hampshire. The only one that is state scored, that is. The first is a set of the schools that we used to be in line with. These are the ELA, or sorry, those that we used to be in line with. Bedford, Hollis, up at 85% proficiency in 2016. We slowly drop year after year from 85 to 78 to 73 to 66, and then to only 55% proficiency in ELA on the state assessment for 2021, from 85%. The second graph is a set of schools that as of 2021, we are now falling behind. In fact, these Hudson, Nashua, and Amherst elementary schools are all above ours in 2021. Where's the 2022 data? Our RMS students declined by 30% in 5 years. What has changed at RMMS in 5 years? Prior to this time frame, our scores were in line with our destination district reputation. What could the cause be? I don't know about you, but I don't pay the same taxes as I did when I lived in Nashua. In fact, I pay more than double in property tax just to have my child here in Brookline. One might argue that since our board is representative of the parents, students, and teachers, that they should really be presenting this information to us. And why aren't they presenting this concerning information to us? Isn't oversight a part of their job? Does our school board support the teachers? Does our school board support the parents and their children? If so, after the June meeting, when concerns were raised surrounding culture, bullying, and special education, why did you all take July off and turn over hiring and firing to the superintendent? You are a board of individuals elected to represent us. We were begging for your help in June. The teachers are begging for our support and your support, but you take the month off. Many of our RMS teachers, of those who are left, don't have confidence in the administration, their union, or the board. They fear speaking up because they will not be renewed if they are not tenured. I spoke to a longtime tenured teacher who said that she left the teachers union after paying into it for many years because it didn't support her. Which is such an odd reason to leave a union because that's what the union job is. This same teacher said that she was so glad to see that there were parents who were looking into this and told me that I was headed down the right path, that tenure was a factor in this equation. So let's look at tenure. The national attrition rate for teachers is 8%. The data that we collected as parents from 2019 to 2022 reflects anywhere from a 20% attrition rate to a 22% attrition rate. The impact of this is immense and too much to address now. I have this data, I can provide it to the board. In 2019 to 2020, the Brookline overall attrition rate was 17.46%. Of that, our RMMS was 21.87%, and CSDA's attrition was 12.9%. The attrition in 20 to 21 was 17.19% in Brookline, but at RMMS, it was 20% in comparison to the 8% national average. CSDA's was 13.8%. 2021 to 2022, the Brookline statistics reflect an attrition rate of 15.625%. Of that, RMMS professional staff, 21.21% of RMS professional staff turned over. So, and for CSDA, it was 9.6%. So you're looking at a past 3-year attrition rate of anywhere from 20 to 22% when the national average is 8%. Many of us parents were the staunchest supporters of the school and the administration. Some of the Parent Association group members are former PTO staff, volunteers, parents who donated or helped the school and staff. One might argue that we are the ones aware of these issues because we were made aware of it due to our level of involvement. I've had very open, honest relationships with both the administration and the teachers. Teachers, both past and present, frankly, with all due respect, if you are not alarmed, then you are not paying attention. Teachers, both past and present, all state a common thread of concerns, and one common theme is that they feel a lack of support. Yes, with more support staff, but also, as we heard in Ms. Maluski's resignation letter, listening to those who interact with the students on a daily basis to ensure that our children's best interests are at the core of the decisions within the district that multiple people of the decisions being made. She describes the cause for her resignation and other exiting teachers as a dysfunction within the district that multiple people and groups have tried to remedy with no success. We as parents and taxpayers are hoping that this time it will be different. Teachers can't stand before you and speak, as many are not Brookline residents. And if they are brave enough, what do they face afterwards? The board remarked in June's meeting that they don't read all of the teacher resignation letters. Why not? Ms. Maluski's letter describes that those who have tried to improve these problems have been met with defensiveness, silence, or denial. That has been my experience as well. Ken didn't respond to my last email to him. I met with Andy Corey before the end of the school year let out, and I still have yet to receive a response on my general education concerns. If I don't get a response from the principal because he says that my email didn't, quote, warrant a response, and then the superintendent doesn't respond to me after an hour-long meeting with him, I too am met with silence. Andy will have you think that he has a policy and procedure to remedy all of these things. If everything is going great, why are teachers, parents, and staff saying these things? I'll leave you with this. Resist the urge to judge us. We are in this together. Just say thank you for all of the hard work that we are doing for you in supporting our teachers, students, and school. We have a lot to improve, and many of us have ideas on ways to improve, and much more to come on that. But we have to work together and recognize that there is a problem that we need to fix.
Anyone else?
How's everybody doing?
Hello there.
Good. I'm Lariana Garvis, North Mason Road. I did not plan on speaking. I just randomly found out about the meeting and decided I wanted to come. We moved here last year. We haven't been here that long. We moved kind of in the middle. My child is special needs. We moved from Nashua. I would like just anybody who's had issues with special needs at RMMS to come and talk to me, because the difference of care that my child has received compared to Nashua is substantial. I would love to speak with somebody who has a problem with any special needs that are happening there. I'm sorry, I'm nervous because I don't have anything to read off of. Because anyone from Amanda Morin, who is, his case manager, to his teachers, to the principal. I mean, I've never in my life had a principal take someone's child to every single bathroom that there is because my child is afraid to use the bathroom. I'm not saying that things aren't going wrong at that school, because I don't know. I don't know all of these middle things. I don't know all the experiences every other person is having. But I think it's important to know that also with a special needs child, it's not just on your school. It is on you as a parent to step up and start figuring out what needs to happen. It's not just coming from that school district. So if something is happening though, please come and talk to me, because I've been through special ed in Washington State, I've been through special ed in Virginia, Washington, DC, I've been through special ed in Nashua, and now in Brookline. No child, whether it's a physical handicap, a mental handicap, personality handicap, nothing needs to be washed underneath the rug. So if somebody is having an issue with special needs and that's happening in our school, come and talk to me, because I have dealt with almost every single person throughout Nashua and Brookline that is handling special needs cases. So if like things aren't being met with your child, then there might be something else that you personally can be doing to try and help your child. But me personally, my son, it was like a light switch went off when we came to Brookline and took him out of Nashua. My 5.5-year-old was screaming and crying he didn't want to go to school when he charts off as a 13 and 14-year-old in a lot of these, studies, but he didn't even want to go and sit through kindergarten because of however he was being treated. If something was happening behavioral-wise, in Nashua, he was literally just brought and sat in the front office and told to sit there and be quiet. He's a 5-year-old with Asperger's on, he's on the spectrum. Like, you can't just do that to a child, People here have already helped him so much, and that's my experience. Like I said, it's not going to be everybody's experience. We all have different experiences, but I think it's important to remember that there's two sides, and maybe reach out to other parents that are having a better sort of experience than you are, I guess I could say, to kind of maybe try to help guide you through and maybe figure out if there are other people that you can speak with within the state, because like I said, it's not all just going to come from that school. Every teacher in there is going to support you and your child. I think everybody in this room is here for the children. That's why we're here. Whoever you like or you don't like, that's why we're here. We want our kids taken care of. We want them to have a good education, right? So I think when it comes down to it, I just wanted to say that I already appreciate how much RMMS has done. I know people are upset with Dan. I have never seen that side. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for any of that. All I know is that I have seen him walk my hysterically crying 5-year-old son through that school to different bathrooms to try and get him to pee. I know that he has changed my son when my son has had accidents at school and told him that it was okay. And I also know that he applauded my son and basically did a quick little party with stickers because my son went and used the bathroom by himself, and he made it a big deal and he made him feel whole. So, like I'm saying, people have bad experiences, people have good experiences. But if people are having problems with special needs, please talk to those people within the school. Speak to other family members that are within the school that have special needs children, because there might be something going on that maybe I don't know about that you do, or that you don't know about and that I do. Because when it comes to the handicaps and the special needs kids, it's a whole other level. And I'm not just speaking about just them, because every single child matters. But I just want to make it a point. I guess that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, Miranda Terry, 1 Lawrence Way. I was not planning on coming up and speaking tonight. I just scratched a whole bunch of little things right now because I felt compelled to come up. First, I want to say, Mrs. Murray, you're amazing. I love you. My kids love you. I have crazy boys who are nuts, and they love you, and you are the best. And you've always been so compassionate with me when I've talked to you about my boys and my issues with my boys, and you've always helped me navigate things with them, so you're awesome. Okay, so I've been a resident for 7 years. Before I became the PTO president, which I am right now, so I also was involved in the Women's Club for many, many years, so I'm really, really involved in town. And even before my kids came to RMMS, I already knew, am I allowed to say names or no?
I would.
Okay, I knew the principal very well before I even came to the school by working on community events and community projects, and I did over Brush Hall with him, and he worked very hard to help us, and he is an involved community member who lives in this town, chose to live in this town to where his own children are going to go here, and I've seen him always pour himself into this community. We have dealt with COVID the last few years. You can't, it's an unprecedented time. Like, you can't judge what has been going on these last couple of years. It's been awful. I'm also in education, and it's been awful. And for these administrators to have to deal with that they've had to deal with, the parents alone, I mean, I'm a parent, but the calls, I mean, Dan probably gets 100 calls a day. Sorry, I'm so nervous. Every time I go in the building as the PTO president, which I'm in the building a lot, he is never at his desk. He is always running around with a student, acting as a para, acting as a lunch duty aide, out at recess. He is literally never at his desk. He is out there on the floor helping because they are understaffed. There's not enough paras. That's not anybody's fault. That is across the whole country. So he is out there. I see him in the trenches trying to help. Do people make mistakes? Absolutely. Do people make the wrong decisions? Absolutely. But I know for a fact, and I know that he does his absolute best. And I have to disagree, too, that there are members of this new said committee, the Brookline, New Hampshire, whatever it's called, that it's not just innocent in just trying to help the teachers. There's personal vendettas there, and that's not okay. These parents need a reality check. We are still very lucky in Brookline. I have many teacher friends across the country and in just towns next door. It is very difficult over there. We are still in a place where our kids are happy and thriving and doing well. That's all I cared about during COVID. I was like, honestly, math, reading, whatever, we'll catch it up. I just want my kids to want to go to school. At the end of the day, if they come home and they want to go back, that's all I can hope for right now. We are all forgetting how these 2 years have affected all of us. And these people are human. These administrators are human. And they have families, just like we do. And they have concerns. And they have fears. And we're all in this together. And now we're so divided. And we don't need to be. I moved to this town because I wanted a small community where people work together and make the community what it is. And I've had a very good experience up until recently. Very good. I have loved being involved in this town and doing all the things to make the town better. It is so rewarding, but right now it's really disheartening the way that people are behaving right now, because we have to realize that we've got it much better than most towns. We really do. Yes, do we have work to do? Yes, other problems, obviously. Obviously there's something going on. But it's like a witch hunt. It's not okay. Like, we need to support these teachers, find out how we can help, support our administrator. We shouldn't just be supporting teachers. The administrators are also the people who work for our kids. It's not just the teachers. I can't imagine being an administrator these last couple of years. This year should be about building back up community. I know even with the PTO, we have so much planned to bring the parents and the families back in the building, bring back the fall festivals, bring back the ice cream socials, bring back all the events where parents finally get to get in the building, get to know the teachers, get to know the administration. This year should be about building things back up after the destruction that COVID put in our lives. And instead we're going into this like this. This is terrible. It's disgusting to me. It's just like, we finally have a chance. Things are somewhat back to normal, and we should be able to try to build things back up. And instead we have this group that's coming in and just tearing things down. And it's really, really upsetting. Sorry. Let's see. I guess that's basically it. I think I got most of my chicken scratch, but I just want everybody to remember that we're all human. We have to give each other some grace, and we have to know that our administrators are doing their absolute best in a very, very difficult time. And why would an administrator choose to live in the town that he works in and have his children go to the school if he wasn't trying to do his absolute best? Thank you.
Hello, Tom Solon, Shady Rock Road. For those of you who know me, you know I can't resist opening my mouth. I didn't know any of this was going on. Although I'm a school board member in a different district, I don't go on social media. I'm not aware of the proceedings. The only reason I'm even aware of what's going on tonight is that a friend called me and asked me what's going on and suggested I look at the video of the last meeting, which I did an hour ago. And I'm talking to the school board because this is public input to you. First of all, you are doing well. You are doing the right thing, and it's important that you remember your role. Your role is to make policy, to hire a superintendent, to address a budget, and make sure the schools are running. You are not the managers of the school. You are not the bosses of the teachers. We have one of the finest administrative groups in the country. We have people coming to our administrators, asking them to instruct them on how to get results such as those that are achieved here. One of those results is hiring and retaining great administrators. One of those is hiring and retaining great staff. We have wonderful teachers. And they're teaching in a really, really horrible environment right now that is not unique to Brookline or New Hampshire or even the United States. So trust yourself. Second thing I suggest is avoid the temptation to get brought into the weeds. Speaking with parents is a very, very slippery slope. Speaking with teachers is even more dangerous because it puts you in a position that compromises your objectivity. You really need to be able to hear all sides. And when you develop a personal relationship with someone who has an exclusive point of view, you run the risk of losing that objectivity. If you think you've got good administrators, let them do their job and allow them to make the decisions about how things are going with the staff, how things are going in the building, where your attention needs to be paid. You need to have trust. Just like we want the community to have trust in us, we need to have trust in our administrators. If you've got a problem with an administrator, and I'm talking about SAU level administration, bring it up with them. If they ask you to get involved in the buildings, great. But if you start inserting yourself and circumventing the system, it undermines your ability to be a school board member. A school board member and a parent at the same time are two tough hats to wear. I've been through it. Fortunately, I don't have to deal with it anymore. And it makes it easier, it really does, because you don't hear the noise coming at you from someone who has a slightly biased point of view, whether it be a teacher or one of your kids or your neighbor's your neighbor who's a parent. So remember how to be a school board member even when it's tough. Something that was said by a parent at the last public session really scared me, and they were talking about the degree to which a teacher was, for lack of a better word, going rogue. And although the intentions may be wonderful, I don't think that many people recognize the impact that an individual teacher taking a path that deviates from what the school as a whole is trying to do makes it more difficult for the school to be successful. And there's all sorts of things. You'll get the information you need. You'll get more than you want. But try to resist the temptation of jumping across lines. If you want to hear input from parents or teachers, work with your administrators to set up an appropriate forum, whether it be public or non-public, but one where all of you get the same information at the same time, and you don't compromise your objectivity or your ability to look at the big picture. Thank you.
Hi guys, Chris Cospito, 5 Birch Drive. I just have 2 things to say that I think I have a little bit of knowledge to share. One being that I'm among community here, the quieter community members, but I think the bulk of the community that is supporting our administration. And I think that it can be hard to be heard or felt sometimes when there's a loud few. And we're here and we support you guys. You're just the best of the best. And I think it's really important. Everybody sort of touched on that, but I'm one of them. I've also been a part of the past 3 principal and vice principal select committees in Brookline, and 2 before the pandemic and 1 after, and it's a different hiring world out there. Very different. The last vice principal select committee we did, everybody that we offered the position to got at least 17 other offers. It's hard to get the best of the best right now. Kind of playing with fire. In my opinion, we have the best of the best. I don't know how aware people are of the current hiring world, from paras all the way through the top of administration. It's a very, very different world. We shouldn't really mess with that, in my opinion. And lastly, please weather this, guys. Push through it. I know it can be tough, but we all really support and love you. Don't let a loud few push you out. Whether it, remain a member of our community, remain members of our schools. We don't want this. The loud few might, but most of us don't. So thank you. Please do.
Anyone else wish to discuss? Okay, so we are going to close public input at 6:51. So for those that likely have seen the agenda, we're going to go to the principal's report, and then there will be some follow-up conversation and discussion around some of the feedback from last June's meeting. So we will transition to the principal's report. I don't think it's resonating.
Oh,
There you go.
Now on? Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. As we've been putting on in the report for the past couple of months, we're showing the enrollment history, so you can see the change over the years. Overall, the June enrollment was up to 591. And for the current, we have the current enrollment, or projected enrollment for this year. As you can see, the numbers compared to the NASDAQ. Right now, overall, we have 580 students for the start of this year, 330 at RMMS and 250 at CSDA. And it's interesting, at CSDA, we actually had 7 families move out of the district. Then we had 7 families move in the district. And I found out today we have 3 more coming to CSDA. So that numbers will go up to 253, which basically for CSDA is really staying at the same level as last year. And we've been having some construction. And Dan can go over the the RMMS.
Good evening. We've had some exciting work being done at RMS, and we want to thank our Brookline taxpayers for their support and the community, and also thank the workers that have been doing their hard work this summer. It's been tremendous. So I'll kind of take you through the school. This summer, we are installing an elevator. That's been, the area has been cut out, but the elevator will be coming in this fall, most likely. That's when it'll be installed, and the hope is to have the project done by January or February, hopefully in that time frame, if not sooner. But they're making great gains. The lower level has taken a wonderful transformation, and we're excited at some point to, show the board that area, show our teachers, and down the line, when it's safer, the students and the families. The library is being renovated down there. It was the old art room, and we took over the storage room, and it's going to be a large, wonderful space in the lower level. When you enter the main entry level, what you'll see is to the left will be the security office area, the welcome area, reception. And then if you travel a little bit further through that where the double doors used to be and the bathrooms, you take a left right there, that's the entrance to the library. And when you turn directly to the right, you'll see the elevator, and behind the elevator is where the music room will be. If you were to continue from the main entrance straight, you would come to where we had our storage area. And in that space, that's being transformed into some flex space, along with a staff meeting room, and then a small storage space. So it's, that whole area that's being renovated this summer is roughly around 8,000 square feet of this building, and it's looking great. When you come up the stairs, one of the stairwells has been taken out so that we could put the security office in. The other stairwell will lead you up to the upper level. And there you'll see a conference room to your left, and that's where we'll house all of our special ed meetings, which is nice because when a family comes in for a meeting, that's where they'll be welcome to, and they can have the meeting right there. And then the elevator for the upper level, and then that will enter into our main entrance. So we're excited to get the elevator. We're excited for the library and the security office. So we're very appreciative of all that work. The former Learning Commons area, that space has been transformed into 2 beautiful-looking third-grade classrooms. We have put in the LED lighting, and it's wonderful. It makes such a tremendous difference for lighting and safety reasons and energy costs. Additionally, we've added 2 flat panel screens for the teachers. All of our third-grade teachers will be having flat panel interactive smart boards. They're the updated cutting-edge smart board. We've added some new windows in the far end of the former library because that section did not have windows. So we added 2 new windows today and a door, and a new paint job, new floors, and new tiling. So it's a great space. It's more of one of those cutting-edge classrooms, state-of-the-art classrooms. The former computer lab area, we gutted it. Well, we didn't gut it out, but we took apart all the cabinetry and the tables and desks in there, and that became our step classroom. So what we've done is we've relocated all of our special ed classrooms to be the central part of our building. And the reason for that is it's important because those are some of our neediest students, and they're going to be central to the building. It helps with services. It helps with travel time. If you can think of a little kindergartner in our far wing traveling from the kindergarten wing through the first grade wing, through the main lobby, and then down the second, third grade hallway, it's about a 5-minute transition, 6-minute transition, and then back. So we're going to gain that time back with service delivery, which is excellent. So special ed will be central. Some other exciting work that happened this summer, we replenished all of the rubber mulch on our playground so that we have, the improved depth for that to stay in compliance. And in addition, today, this is exciting. If you've ever been running around our playground, we've had some small rocks popping out of the ground. It's always concerned me. We've pulled those out today, or we added additional loam over it so that's not a safety hazard. So that got done today, which is great. We also had our parking lot sealed this summer, and it was a wonderful improvement, and definitely will prolong the life of our parking lots, even though it is dating itself. You can start seeing we've had a lot more seal cracks that we've had to update in the parking lot. And we added a couple pictures on the principal's report that's online and also in the packets here. That's a view of the lower level library, the Learning Commons space. And then the second picture on that page is the transformation from the Learning Commons into the 2 grade 3 classrooms. I think I'm forgetting one other thing that we did, but we've done quite a bit. And I couldn't, thank our custodial staff, Mr. Beach and Mr. Harrington, along with, we've also had some other wonderful support from other custodians in the district who have come in and helped paint some classrooms, and also some moving of furniture. And also want to thank our facilities director and assistant facilities director, Lance Finnemore and Ben, for their support. So thank you.
If I could just real quick on that, I did have a chance to tour this, and I think Dan may be underwhelming the amount of effort that's been involved this summer with that. If anyone's been to RMS, every classroom has been, everything has been removed out of it. It's in the gym. The entire place is being re-wickered. All the floors have been redone. All the bathrooms have been redone on the floor. So I just would echo thank you to everyone that rolled their sleeves up and did that. I know we're not quite there yet, but the pictures do show a really good progress. And we were joking, are these third grade classrooms going to be ready? And you said they better be, and they will be. But I just, deep appreciation for how much effort's gone on in there this summer. It's really, truly, I couldn't believe how much turnover from all the classrooms and work that's gone into it. So thank you.
I don't know if Superintendent Corey has anything else to add, because he's there every day as well, rolling up his sleeves. So did I catch it all?
You got it.
Okay.
Nice job.
All right.
And then at CSDA, we've had quite a bit of construction and activities going on here as well. The bottom picture on that page shows the excavation of the front walkway for ADA compliance. We have 2 ramps, one on the side and one at the very end, which is now complete, actually. The next picture on the next page is the development of the ramp. Actually, was pretty interesting of all the large equipment they had to bring in here and trying to, adapt it. It was amazing how much work actually goes into here. And then there's also the excavation of the playground area, which they just completed the new hardtop for an ADA compliant swing that will be in the back in the playground. We, unfortunately, right now, it looks like we're not going to be having the swing arrive until October. But they've made the area, they're all set for that when it arrives. We also started our first phase 1 of the replacement of the exterior classroom doors. We were able to do 3 exterior doors. If you recall last year, I presented that we needed money in the budget to do a phased approach to replace all the doors. They were all actually rusting apart, the frames and everything. So they did a beautiful job. Also, again, for ADA compliance and for the safety, there's a ramp creation at the exterior of each classroom door. Basically, there was a lip so that if anybody was in a wheelchair or on crutches or anything, if we had a fire drill or an emergency, they wouldn't be able to safely exit the exterior doors. So we put a little ramps in there. We also did a coating of the new gym floor as well. So I apologize for all the pictures, but I said, oh, it was exciting to see all these things. Actually, if we want to just go back to 2 pages, we just want to quickly go over some of the upcoming events. And tomorrow, there'll be a new family orientation for all students at both RMMS and CSDA. It's really a tour of the buildings for new families. And we're also, they have the kindergarten coming up on April 31st. But tomorrow, I'll also be doing a tour for all incoming 4th grade students and their parents. We also have the first day of school on September 1st. But one thing I just want to mention is, I know it's here, on August 30th, I really want to promote that we're having a presentation by Lynn Lyons. Not sure if anybody here has seen her. I've seen her several times over my career as an educator. And basically, she's going to help our families for emotional health, the do's and don'ts as we move forward. And this is for parents, for educators, to help all of our children and students in the community. I highly recommend it. If you can make it, it's Tuesday night, August 30th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Hollis Brookline High School auditorium. So please, I know we sent it out on our newsletter. If you need any other information, please let us know. But I encourage families to please attend.
And then we're also excited to have our open house. It will be in person this year. Parent conferences will be in person this year. So we'll have September 7th will be CSDA's open house. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. And RMS is the following night, same time, 6 p.m. Something else exciting, other than Picture Day, which is exciting as well, that's not listed here that we just planned. On September 2nd, we're doing an in-house Flagpole Ceremony. It's an annual ceremony we do to start the school year off. It's on the 2nd. But I'm even more excited to, share, introduce all the new new students and staff. But we're also inviting Evelyn Mahakian back because we have a presentation to do. It's the 20th year since Mr. Mahakian's passing. So we're going to do that remembrance as well. So.
I have a comment and a quick question. The class sizes for kindergarten, is it actually the 4 sections or 5?
For kindergarten, last year we had a larger kindergarten, and I was pretty amazed. I was sharing with Superintendent Corey. The NASDAQ report was actually pretty accurate this year. We had about 80 students last year, I believe it was in kindergarten, and we're down to 53. So we had 5 teachers last year, with about 17 students in the class this year. So we reduced it down to 1 teacher, so it's 4 teachers.
Okay.
4 teachers. Oh yeah, thank you for pointing out. 4 teachers, yeah, thank you.
Seeing in that with the upcoming events, you're also listing all the staffing needs, and there's still a critical need for
Yep.
paras, case managers, and custodians. So I'd like to remind everyone it may feel onerous, that volunteer training is really important. It's legally required, you have to do it, but the schools could really use volunteers, maybe to help out in the new learning commons. Do you still need help in the lunchrooms potentially, like we used to do in before times?
Yeah, we will,
things like
we'll
that.
take it. Right now, it will be me in a couple of hours, yep.
It's a
So,
lot of
yep.
work to do the training, and I understand it feels like a lot, but we can do hard things to help out in our school.
Yeah.
It's a couple hours, and we have to do it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that would be a nice way to help out until we can get
Yeah.
some staff.
Yeah, we've had some wonderful parents, donate some time to help in the lunchroom, so any help is appreciated. Just make sure you do your volunteer forms, so, and trainings.
I just have a quick question. So I know this is coming super late, so I'm already acknowledging this, but I don't think I realized at the time when we were taking out the storage area, which is absolutely fine. I think it's a better use of space. My question is, what are we doing now for storage area? This is like a 1970s closet nightmare of a house, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have stuff, and I know that there was stuff from like the SAU stored in there at one point too.
Right, so we did, we had a few dumpsters in the parking lot, so
Okay.
that was a fun day. And we definitely held on to a lot of old stuff that we were hoarders for a little while. And some outdated furniture. The upstairs in the gymnasium, there's a storage area too, that we've held all the chairs for events. So we had a couple racks taken out, and we've deployed those to other areas. And so that opened up some storage space, and we added some second level storage inside that room because it
Okay.
has high ceilings, so we made a second level.
Awesome.
But I think we're better off right now with the storage we have, so.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the other thing too is every single space is used, so all the furniture has gone in every single space in our building.
Perfect.
There's not an empty spot anymore, I can tell you that, after seeing it firsthand. Okay, so we're going to move to our discussion section now. Thank you for that input. And the first is the follow-up from our June meeting. I was remiss, I just do want to say real quickly, thank you again for coming and feedback tonight as well. Appreciate the input, appreciated it in June. Appreciated the tone a little more tonight, where it was a little more collaborative, but all feedback is always very welcome, and we thank you for that.
Okay, what I'd like to do is kind of walk the board through my memo, and then after I've completed the memo, I have a couple recommendations to make, and I will also take any questions from the board at that point. I want to take the opportunity to clarify a few items that were discussed during the June board meeting during public comment. Much of the discussion comments involve personnel matters, discipline incidents, special education, and funding. The nature of these items, personnel, special education, and discipline, limits what I can state, but I wanted to provide details regarding our practices and procedures as they relate to these topics. First one, discipline. During the pandemic, we experienced an uptick in inappropriate behaviors. Improper language, unkind act, and bullying all increased over the past 2 years. Oftentimes, inappropriate language and roughhousing get lumped under the topic of bullying. Our bullying protocols and procedures are clearly outlined. When a report of bullying is provided, the administrator has a set timeline and clear direction of who should be notified. The law requires both families to be contacted unless there are compelling reasons why this should not happen. During my tenure, we have always notified both families of an alleged incident of bullying. The building principal is required to either substantiate or unsubstantiate the claim of bullying. Oftentimes, it is difficult to clearly define an incident as bullying. Many times, it can be roughhousing, inappropriate language, or an unkind act that requires intervention or discipline consequences, but which, based on the developmental understanding, is not bullying. Young children often do not comprehend that their words or actions are causing harm and therefore struggle to understand why there is an issue. If a claim of bullying is unsubstantiated, it does not mean that appropriate discipline consequences were not issued. On some occasions where physical contact or a fight occurs, though rare, the Brookline Police Department is involved and determines if an assault occurred. Police involvement often raises the level of anxiety for the students and families involved. Bullying investigations are required to be sent to the superintendent, and the family has the ability to appeal the principal's decision to the superintendent. Second topic was special ed. All special education decisions are made by an IEP team. The parent is part of this team and may choose to have an advocate attend or experts be present if they so choose. Parental rights are provided to parents at every meeting to ensure the family understands their rights regarding how the meeting is conducted. Personnel decisions are not linked to any student's IEP team decisions. The district is required to provide FAPE, free appropriate public education, and the IEP process has many safeguards and appeals processes built in should a parent in the district disagree. Personnel. The teachers are represented by NEA New Hampshire, and their rights and responsibilities are outlined in their collective bargaining agreement. The district views human resources as the essential component in the education of a child. To that end, the district provides a wealth of supports to ensure a high probability of success for the individuals we hire. The last couple of years, the pandemic has shrunk the applicant pool for positions, but overall, our SAU and Brookline is still a destination district. Each August, the district provides 2 days of orientation where staff is provided with training. Actually, yesterday and today were those 2 days this year. A broad overview of the curriculum is provided, as well as time to acclimate themselves to their building. Each new hire, novice or veteran, is provided a mentor to assist the staff member. Each building has a building coach to provide another layer of support for new teachers. In response to the increase in new teachers that we have seen this year and last year, we have created a new grant-funded position. The role of this instructional coach is to support teachers with instructional strategies, pedagogy, and organization of learning space. Staff members are provided professional development at internal sessions, and they have the ability to seek out and attend sessions they believe will enhance their classroom instruction. Each year, all staff meets with the building administration to establish goals for the school year. The administration periodically checks in on these goals, and progress is formally reviewed at the end of the year. Each new hire is observed 4 times per year. The teacher is not aware when the observation will occur. Each of these formal observations is documented, and each observation is followed by a post-observation conference. The post-conference primarily focuses on the observation, but the administrator can raise concerns regarding any other matters such as attendance at grade level meetings, participation in professional development, or punctuality, just to name a few. The non-renewal decision encompasses a wide variety of employment issues, not just teaching. The building administrator provides the SAU administration with regular updates regarding staff at their regularly scheduled bi-weekly meetings. From December through March, there is a clear focus on who will be offered a contract for the upcoming years. The teachers who will be non-renewed are invited to a meeting with the principal and a second administrator. There are always 2 administrators in attendance at the non-renewal meeting. The principal provides the staff member with the non-renewal notice, and no reasons are provided based on the RSAs that govern teacher non-renewal. The written notice provided to the teacher informs them that they have the option of accepting the non-renewal or resigning. In some instances, teachers select the non-renewal to ensure they are eligible for COBRA insurance or if they believe they will be collecting unemployment. This choice of accepting the non-renewal results in no letter of resignation being provided. The school board is provided with recommendations by the superintendent in the form of a renewal list. This list is provided to the board in non-public session, and then during the public session, the board votes to affirm the nomination list. An individual who chooses to resign or simply to take no action after the board has accepted the nomination list would not have the ability to resign at a later date since they no longer have the option of future employment with the district. As an SAU, we understand our decision creates anxiety, and oftentimes human resources will reach out to answer any questions an individual may have regarding the non-renewal resignation process. Funding. Community members voiced concern that Hollis has significantly outspending Brookline on school support. The Hollis budget contains a number of significant debt payments based on their recent renovations to Hollis Primary School and Hollis Upper School. Both districts have approximately the same size, class size policies and staffing levels. One area that Hollis has more employees is paraeducators. Hollis also has a curriculum administrator, a community resource officer, a full-time Spanish teacher, which accounts for roughly $300,000 in additional payroll. In Brookline, teacher salaries are slightly lower than Hollis, but the district contributes a higher percentage to healthcare. From an overall compensation package, both districts are comparable, and both districts offer the New Hampshire retirement system to their employees. Should Brookline continue to make capital investments in their school, they will see this budget gap close quickly. As I said, I want you to go through that and touch base on a couple things and then make my recommendations. I think discipline, as we've discussed at board meetings, has been difficult. It is very, very hard for a student who has been maybe remote and then not in school for almost 2 years to come back and quickly conform at a very young age to rules and regulations. Teachers spend almost the whole first quarter developing those habits. And for a child to be away from those habits for a couple of years can be very, very difficult for a number of students. So we have seen an uptick. I think every school in the country has. The issue is, for it to be bullying, the child has to have some understanding of what they're doing. And when you're 7, 8, and 9, you don't necessarily understand the concept of personal space. Many of you recognize a phys ed teacher used what he calls his bubble space. In Hollis, they use hula hoops, just trying to teach little ones what personal space means. I know our teachers have been frustrated because, again, discipline has increased, and it does appear that more and more is being tolerated. But at the same time, as the administrator, we have to take into account that the child, all children are presenting a little differently because of what they've experienced because of COVID. Now, we fully expect, between the new teacher training, professional development that we'll be offering, and some programs, to be able to swing back to environments that had very little discipline problems. One of the reasons I came here, K to 12, if we have a fight, one, at the high school all year, that's a bad year. This year, we had more than a handful. This pandemic has not been kind to kids. So we will work with our teachers. We respect that they see that and we understand that. I can tell you I aggravated some teachers because there were some bullying issues that did come up. And if I felt child A and child B could no longer be together, I have an obligation to solve that issue. If that means I need to move one of those children to a new classroom, I will do it. It's not popular with teachers. They get into their routine, they're used to their students, and that is upsetting to them. It did happen this year. I think it happened more this year than at any time I've been here. So that's the discipline piece. Special education-wise, every single meeting, a parent gets their rights. And they can reject what that IEP team is saying. And there is a wealth of safeguards for them in that process. They can go to due process, they can contact the state, they can go to mediation. There are a number of safeguards. We would never make a decision about an individual because of what they said at an IEP meeting. If any of you have heard me talk in the past, I have a very soft place in my heart for special ed children because I have a 32-year-old nephew who lives in a group home and is developmentally delayed, and a 21-year-old niece. So we offer services and we do everything we can to work with families to make sure we do provide FAPE. Sometimes it can be contentious and difficult, and we understand that because part of my responsibility is also representing all the other students as well as the students who need services. Personnel. Every year we make difficult decisions. This year, on Friday, March 18th, on Monday, March 21st, we notified staff they were going to be non-renewed. Non-renewed is the term in education where we are not inviting you back. We have made the decision. That's based on what we have observed. Our principals do 4 formal observations. They are in and out of classrooms all the time. I'm in the building along with the assistant superintendent on a regular basis and are in classes regularly. It's not something we take lightly. When we have that meeting, and I have done it as a principal, it is not a fun meeting. We inform the staff member that they are being non-renewed, and we are unable, under the RSA, to provide them any reasons. So it seems very, seems like you don't care, but we are governed by the RSA. We provide the staff member with a written explanation. One side is the rules and regulations governing it, the other side is their options, and each letter is signed by me, because technically I'm the one that non-renews staff. I'm the only one who can make nominations to the school board. Those individuals were provided the information on those 2 dates. Some chose to resign, some chose to accept a non-renewal, and some chose not to do anything. So in the document, it tells you that if you do nothing on April 14th, which is the day before we are legally required to give out contracts, you are officially non-renewed. The pandemic made it very difficult for hiring. Our pool of applicants, using last year's and this year, 9 years ago when I started, if we had a 2nd or 3rd grade opening, we'd have 50 resumes. 50 qualified people, many of them wanting to come here from other districts. This year, we're looking at a handful of people. It's just a totally different hiring environment. Many of my colleagues, many of the people I've worked with over the years, have chosen to leave teaching because it has been very difficult. Teachers are accurate when they say the last 2 years have been very top-down. That's a fact. We as a board, my recommendation, wore masks. We had desks 6 feet apart. We didn't have anybody close together. We weren't in groups of 3 or 4 like we've been. Instruction became direct instruction. And if you know the elementary level, direct instruction is not the best form of instruction for those children. But when you're trying to protect a teacher from COVID and protect children from COVID, you mandate that. We also went through the reality of what was passed at the state, and there were concerns around critical race theory. And the state passed a law, and we had to advise teachers how they needed to conduct themselves. As many of you know, at one point there were a bounty list put up to identify teachers who were violating that. Many of our teachers were scared. Many of our teachers didn't want to misstep. They love children, they love what they're doing, but this is their livelihood, and they didn't want to misstep. So when you put a pandemic and a curriculum change like that, and not being able to do some of the things that we have always done, and I'll give you an example. I go into the elementary schools all the time. Our 3- and 4-year-old programs are some of the best places to stop. Those children at 3 and 4 don't know with COVID, you're not supposed to hug. I walk in the door, they come running over, and it's already happened. Right? It makes my day. So everybody was in a learning curve. Every teacher, every child, every para. Many of the things we've done for the last 2 years and many years that made us successful were put on the shelf. And I think one of the things that hurt us is we typically across our SAU have about 500 people sign up to be parent volunteers. To Karen's point, they go through all those trainings, and I know they're not easy. And those 500 people are in and out of our buildings, half an hour here, a day there, an event there. None of that occurred I'm a parent as well. When all of a sudden you can't see something with your own eyes, you start to wonder. And we weren't welcoming. You signed in, you got your child, you went home. From the days of being able to kind of wander around, spend time with kids. That's all returning. We heard from our PTA president tonight. I can't tell you the number of forms I have signed and number of events. From our library to our PTAs, you name it, everybody's trying to do something to normalize the experience for the kids in these two towns. And I think it's going to be a very good year. On March 23rd, we have a non-public meeting. I provide the nomination list to the school board of everybody we're going to bring back. And they ask questions. Is anybody on this list on an improvement plan? Is anybody on this list, do we have any concerns? They do their job. We answer all their questions, the four of us. We come out to public session and they ratify that list. That list has been in the minutes since March. So there's been no secret about who we ask back. We don't put a list up of who we don't ask back. We put a list up of who we asked to come back. So that list was up all of March. I am regularly in the building, right? And as a result of that, I talk to teachers all the time. And I will publicly say for the record, I think Katie Maluski is a fabulous, fabulous teacher. And if she called me tomorrow and wanted a job back, I would do everything I could to bring her back. The difficulty is when the superintendent reads a letter that maybe isn't 100% accurate, it takes on a different meaning. And I have been cautioned on many occasions by legal that I can't do that. And we have a unique system because we're 4 different legal entities. One is the SAU, one is Brookline, one is Hollis, and one is the co-op. So it's 100% accurate. I did not read all the components in that letter. I did that based on legal advice. But I want everybody in this room to understand I knew Katie Maluski. When I arrived, she was the computer teacher. She told me she wanted to become a classroom teacher. We made that happen because she was good for kids. And I would like nothing more than for Katie to call me and want to come back. But she's made a decision, one that I support because I respect Katie. But please don't confuse a veteran, long-standing teacher with somebody who's on the non-renewal list. Because one thing, when I arrived 9 years ago, the boards wanted was to make sure that if you were reaching continuous contract status, which is, many of you call that tenure, in New Hampshire it's called continuous contract status, that it had a value. And every teacher that has that status appreciates the value we put on that status because they put their time in, they paid their dues. And it's not just about what we do in the classroom that makes us a teacher. With regard to funding, if you want to spend more money, I'm happy to do that. It's no secret, okay? But it has been very difficult because we have a very small tax base. And I know you chose the schools, and I know you want what's right for your children, but I have to balance everything. So last year, we had about $350,000 worth of cost that we started the budget with because families had moved into the district that required services. We don't get to say, I'm sorry you bought your house, we didn't know you were coming, we don't have the services for you. No, I have to find the money. Right? That's a significant increase. And then when I put on top of that, the needs we had at RMMS, and if you remember, I was advocating for 2.9 million, not 1.5, because there are many things at CSDA that need to be fixed. RMMS is probably 60 years old. And I think this project this summer is the first major renovation since the building was built. RMMS, just so you know, is made up of residential boilers. 7 different rooms of residential boilers. So we're not very efficient. And we have a number of maintenance issues coming up. We're using the same approach that we use in our neighboring district, because to build a new elementary school is about $55 million. In Hollis, we are wrapping up about 5 years of renovations at a cost of about $13 million. And we've added probably 25 to 30 years of life. So we have a number of things that are coming up. These 2 individuals, Dan and Tricia, during the pandemic, allowed us on countless days to be open. So we didn't have to call you at 5:30 in the morning and say we're closing, because they covered lunches, they covered classrooms, they did whatever needed to be done, along with every other staff member. You know, a lot of times I turn on the news and I hear stories about unions, okay? I would ask you please not to think of our teachers as the individuals you may hear about, because our teachers did everything they could to make sure we could open. You know, we opened in 2020 because, to me, it was the best thing we could do for kids. So when I see, and Gina will talk about these when we have discussion, but English language arts and math results go down a little bit, okay? I'm kind of expecting that. And we'll figure out a way. Because when you're in the 2nd or 3rd grade, I have until you graduate from Hollis Brookline High School to catch you up. So I don't need to cram everything down your throat in 1 week. I've got time, I can be methodical, and I've got experts who do it really well. Maybe I should have read Katie's entire letter. I don't know. But I want you to understand I had a reason why. And it had nothing to do with her. She's an outstanding, outstanding person. And I was just disappointed that I didn't get to say goodbye to her. So, my recommendations to the board. First of all, I think in September, I would like to come back to you with a proposal to do a climate study. All right? And I say September because I'd like to get the kids settled. I'd like to get an exact cost for the board to know what you're going to be paying for, because I have every confidence in the people sitting at this table that we're going to get good information. Will it be perfect? No. But what we'll do is we'll use that information and we'll move forward and we'll get better. The second thing is I'm going to be evaluating the budget to see if we can secure some temporary help on the administrative level to take some of the evaluations off our administrators, some of the 504 meetings off our administrators, so that we can ensure that they're out with kids. I'll be looking at maybe veteran people that I am aware of that would look to do some work part-time, but I think that's critical. And in the FY24 budget, I will be, again, I think it's the 3rd or 4th year, proposing a 4th administrator, because we know there's a need. I cut that administrator back when times were difficult and we had to make cuts. Our enrollment has grown. We have needs, but just to share that, a fully loaded administrator, not a principal, assistant principal, is going to cost about $139,000, fully loaded. Health benefits, New Hampshire retirement, salary, all the pieces that go into that. So when we look at our budget, that's a critical element. In that budget, as the board knows, I've been meeting with Chief Quigley because we're going to be proposing an SRO to be shared between our 2 buildings. So we take the next step for safety. And then we'll also be recommending that we move the extra teacher, I shouldn't say extra, the teacher that we added based on the ELA data that was discussed tonight. We added a teacher in grade 4 through ESSER funds. We moved that teacher up to grade 5 with that group because they were struggling through REAP funds. There's no ESSER and REAP left. So next year I need to put that in the budget. So the data is one thing, it's what we do with the data. So we increased staffing to reduce class sizes and, let me just see. When do you want to touch on that? You want to do that now? Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Gina just to talk about that data for a minute.
Okay, so just to clarify a couple of points, March 23rd, 2022, we had a presentation on data in the district. So we talked both about SAS data, but also Ames Web Plus data, which gives you more information starting with kindergarten. And we utilize both of those pieces of data. I also had a data presentation January 13th, 2021, shared all the good, the bad, and the ugly then. And I also had a data presentation November 28th, 2018, where I shared historic data from 2016 up until that point. What's really important to understand when you're looking at data is that it's not just one piece of information. Looking at that presentation that I did in 2018, I discussed how we are really looking at apples, oranges, and bananas, if you will, because in 2016, we were the last district in the state of New Hampshire to do a paper and pencil administration of Smarter Balance. So our test was paper and pencil. Everyone else had a computer adaptive test. So our results weren't necessarily comparable to the rest of the districts in the state. In 2017, that was no longer an option to do paper and pencil. So we took the Smarter Balance assessment on the computer for the very first time, whereas other districts had been doing it for a few years at that time, and it was also computer adaptive. In 2018, they issued New Hampshire SAS and replaced the Smarter Balance. So now all of a sudden it's a new assessment. So for 3 years in a row, we have data points, but they're not necessarily comparable. So that's one piece of information. When I took a look at some of our data, I did identify that we had a sort of out of the ordinary result for our third graders for 2021 with 55% proficient in ELA and 52% proficient in math. And so I wrote my ESSER grant to describe the need to address those learning needs in that particular cohort. And rather than moving along with 4 sections of 4th grade, it met our class size specs, but we added a 5th section so that we could reduce class size and all of the students could get greater one-on-one support. And what's not told in some of these graphs, but what we do look at very carefully and closely, is if you look at that cohort, 2021, who was 55% proficient in ELA, as 4th graders, they bumped up to 72% proficient. So it does not matter what we see in one day, it matters what we see over the course of their education with us. That's after we had our teachers spend quality time doing quality instruction with them over the course of a year, that much growth. Their math scores went from 52% proficient up to 67% proficient this year in 2022 in math. So that tells a better story than one little isolated point in time. And so it's really important to take a look at that. What's also really important is looking at 2022 data, which isn't fully released yet. I'm not sure how the state has done. I only know our preliminary data. The state has not released the statewide data yet. But all of our cohorts, with the exception of one assessment piece, they've all seen significant growth. And that tells the story of what takes place day to day with our teachers and students with the direction of our administration. So that is really telling. That being said, I still had some concerns across the board with that cohort, so I didn't want to just push them back into 4 sections at 5th grade. And so I found another grant funding source, REAP grant, to fund that 5th section in 5th grade. And so that cohort remains fully supported at the same level as this year. As Superintendent Corey mentioned, you'll see it as a new item because my expectation is they're likely going to need that support as sixth graders and will probably need a fifth section. If not, we can readjust that and take a look at that as more data becomes available. We have to proactively plan for that. Another piece of information is that looking at this data, we recognize the need for support in ELA at RMMS, and so August of 2021, the teachers all received foundations training to boost up their ability to support the reading needs of our youngest learners. Just this week, we had some of our teachers work to ensure that our ELA curriculum was up to date and across the board consistent amongst the grade levels. And then we are bringing in a consultant when the teachers come back next week to do reading training to make sure that now that they have that foundations training, that now all of our teachers have that same level of support in reading instruction. In addition to that, we are providing specific Mass General supported behavior training for all of our teachers here in Brookline. So there are needs, but we're certainly looking at them, addressing them, trying to figure out the best way to support all of our teachers and administrators to help us move forward. Certainly this has not been an easy past few years, but we're not sitting idle. We're utilizing the information available to us and working together to problem solve. I'm trying to think if there was something else. Oh, the other piece is, as mentioned in Mr. Corey's discussion about teacher training, we do have new teachers across the entire SAU. We welcomed more new teachers than fit on a school bus, as we found out as we gave them a tour of Hollis and Brookline yesterday. It was really crowded and hot on that bus. And Mr. Molinari did a great job of pointing out the sights and scenes of Brookline with all the historic markers. But anyway, part of that was really being able to provide them support, not just with the curriculum with reading and foundations and behavior, but also with classroom management and the organization of space and communicating effectively, small group instruction, et cetera. So each teacher is provided with a mentor. We've done that for years. About 6 years ago, we added a building coach, which is one teacher in the building that provides sort of overarching support for all of our new teachers. If maybe the time schedule doesn't work out with their mentor, if they just have a different type of question, or if they're looking to observe a fellow teacher who might do just an amazing job with one particular lesson. But that wasn't quite enough, and we wanted to up it. So we've now utilized grant funding to create an instructional coach of one of our beloved, recently retired, highly respected teachers from one of our districts within SAU 41 that can spend the time, not tied to his or her own classroom, but can spend the time one-on-one with our newer teachers to provide the support that they need, to provide modeling of instructional strategies, to provide sub-coverage so that they can see a peer, observe a different lesson or observe a strategy with a student. Let's say Mr. Molinari and I both work with a student, but he's far more effective with that student. I want to see what he's doing that's different from what I'm doing so I can incorporate those same strategies. And this instructional coach is going to give our teachers the opportunity to do that. So we certainly are working creatively and outside of the box to sort of address the issues that we see.
Thanks, Gina. Questions from the board on that piece?
I guess not so much a question. In the meeting, there was a comment made tonight in June that we didn't have a July meeting, and that stung a little bit because there's been a lot that's been going on since June, but there's not a lot that can be said instantly. And you heard a lot of the detail here. A lot of it's covered. But I guess I just want to impress upon the trust that we are looking after the administration, the teachers, the feedback from the community. You heard a lot of these outlined recommendations tonight. A lot of those were discussed in depth in non-public before we could talk in front of folks. But your feedback's being heard. But I just struggle with this. We have a fundamental culture issue. It doesn't mean that we can't improve things. I'm very concerned if we're loud enough about having a culture problem we will make that manifest destiny and we'll create a problem that doesn't exist. And I can't say that loudly enough. Nobody's perfect. You heard about the last 2 years have been tough, to say the least. But everyone is dedicated to keep this thing going and to keep the greatest, one of the greatest districts in the state right now going. And I do want to say to Miranda, I appreciate your Build Back the Community comment a lot. I think that really resonates with everyone profoundly, and that's what we've been missing. And, I think there's a real dedication to doing that. So I want everyone to know, and everyone on the record, we listen to every piece of feedback. Everyone up here does. Not everything can be shared, but inaction doesn't mean there's nothing happening behind the scenes. But we are listening, and everything that Superintendent Corey stated there, I really appreciate, because I had some notes, but I think you hit it perfectly. And Gina, when you talked about this test scores, education is dynamic. We've talked about these scores for the last probably 18 months at our board meetings, and I know not everyone's been to those, and that's fine, but we've been discussing this, and that's why we've added the extra teachers, and that's why we're looking at it. We adopted a new math program a few years ago. The Hollis district is now adopting that because of our success. We're looking at what's going on in Hollis because they have some better language type things, and we're going to look at that. The Portrait of the Cavalier portfolio that we've been pitching, that the administration's been pitching for K through 12 is very real, and we're really looking to harmonize and continue to improve where we can. And now that COVID's over, well, it's not over, I guess it's never, but we're back to where we were. The normal board, I hope we can get back to our normal board around curriculum and all that stuff. I know there were some emails that sent on that today, and it very much resonated on that stuff. And just know that we're listening, we're here, y'all, and I do appreciate your enthusiasm and passion. And I made a point earlier, the tone tonight felt more collaborative, and know that we want to be collaborative. It's not a defensive stature, but there are some things that there's policy and things that we can't always share too, and please know that. So thank you.
I just wanted to echo too a little bit of what Ken said, but in general, I have to listen to a meeting and then reflect on it afterwards. But when I reflected on the June meeting, I regretted not speaking up more. And I do think somebody in the audience said it best, that we really, the majority of us want to have a collaborative community. We don't want to come in here and talk about half of a factual situation, admit that we don't know the other half, and then demand the resignation of individuals. That's not how we operate in this community, and I hope we can get back to that. There is a large majority of parents in this community that support our administration. That does not mean we don't ask questions. We absolutely will ask questions. But the way that meeting went after I watched it back seemed like people had a decision in mind, and they were drawing out certain facts and then demanding resignation. So I just want to reiterate my support for the administration and my support for the community, that we have to work together collaboratively. I hope we don't start every meeting with an insult to a teacher who has been here for 15 to 20 years because she disagrees with something that you said. That was really disheartening. That's not how the people that have lived in this community treat each other. So yes, we have things to work on. We're committed to that, but I just hope we can do it in a positive way, because we create culture and climate in this room too. We do. If you don't feel comfortable bringing your child into this room, if I didn't have somebody my husband watching my children tonight, I wouldn't bring them here because I don't know what's gonna happen. So I hope we can kind of just talk about facts and data like we did tonight in a reasonable manner, but also support each other.
You can go first.
Well, I just want to reiterate what Ken and Colleen have said. We have outstanding administrators and staff. We support our administrators and our staff. Everyone is here looking out for your children's best interest. It's important to voice your concerns. It's important to come to these meetings because everything is addressed, everything is presented through the year. You learn how it's presented, what the cycle of when results come in. Sitting in a soccer field and gossiping is not going to get you accurate information. If you have a concern that comes up outside, come here, address the school board, bring it to the administration. but come to our meetings because everything is done in the public, everything is open. We want to hear your feedback, but this is the forum for that. This is where we want to hear it. This is where you're going to get accurate information. You're going to hear from staff. You're going to hear from other parents. You're going to hear from the administration. Come here first, please.
So I have a couple thoughts. First and foremost, there's a climate and a culture problem. It's because people are saying there is, not necessarily because there's a pervasive problem, but boy, oh boy, does word spread super fast. I got pulled into an office yesterday morning at work talking about the climate problem here. Which is funny, because I was like, does our school district have a problem? Yeah, we're not perfect. But I would not question, I don't even have a kid in the Brookline School District anymore. I have them in the SAU, in the co-op, but I have no children here, and I still have done this. Because I believe in these schools, it's why we moved here. Have we had problems? Yeah. Has my kid been one of the problems at times? Yup. These individuals are fantastic at what they do. I had a kid, one of my own children was being bullied at one point, didn't even tell me. It was before you, Trish, so your predecessor gave me a call the next day and talked to me about it. And do you know what I said? I've got no problem, I'm sure you're handling it. He's like, I can't tell you names. I go, I don't want to know names. I was like, I have faith that you guys are handling it the way it needs to be handled. And I still have that faith today. I had the faith to know that when my kid was the problem and I found out, I think Mr. Molinari was my first phone call. He didn't happen to be in that day. It was already past school hours. But he was my first phone call because as the parent, I need to take responsibility for what my child did. And so we look at this climate, when we said there's a climate problem, yeah, one of the biggest problems we're facing right now across the country, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but across this country is discipline issues within the school. And if we keep trying to pile it on our teachers and our administrators to solve it, it will never get better. It has to be collaborative across parents, children, administrators, and teachers. And it is heartbreaking to think that we're standing so firmly and unwilling to sit outside and really look at all the perspectives of everybody. Because I sit here and I hear what you're saying, and that's your experience, and I take that to heart. And I also know that that's your experience, and that's your experience. And we all come in with our own biases, our own thought processes, our own ways of wanting everything to be. But this is a public school where we have to compromise on everything. We have to follow the RSAs. We have to follow the policies. If you feel that we're not, that is a major issue. And it needs to be addressed. But if the policies are being followed, even if we can't see all sides of it, we can't see what the discipline for a certain child was, that's okay. Because I don't know about you, but if my kid did something, even though I just kind of ratted him out, I wouldn't necessarily want his name published everywhere. Because we're all making mistakes, and we're all doing the best we can, and this year has sucked. And I also kind of looked at attrition rates going through here while I was sitting here, because I was kind of curious. I think that number was a little low, the 8%, at least in New Hampshire. The attrition rates are brutal. Dissatisfaction with jobs is high across the board. Healthcare, teaching, mental health, those are huge, aside from everybody else. We haven't had the volunteers in, and it was all in the name of safety. But these guys put together a plan to keep our children in school. Did we disagree about masks? Yup. This lady still wears one because of my own health issues, but I'm cool with you guys not. It is about the collaboration, the working together, trying to see it from the other person's perspective and take it all in. When we hear a story, I work with kids, not in a school, in a mental health setting. When they come in and tell me a story, I know that I'm lucky if I got 50% of the story right then and there. And that's on a good day, because that's their perspective. And we need to keep that in mind. So I'm kind of curious, though. I'm going to ask one question, because this other issue that, aside from our June meeting, which ignores the fact that this was our first June off in years, which was July, sorry, in years, and that was kind of fantastic because we used to get them off all the time. And I swear we used to get some Junes and Augusts in there too. But aside from that, I kept hearing about this vote of no confidence. That really bothered me. So, Mr. Corey, about what percentage of our teachers are actually in the union? Is that allowed to be said?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but just during my career, the number of people that choose to join is, I think, decreased since years ago. I can find that out for the next board meeting, because
That would be awesome. Just
Sure.
because I want to know, like, the union helps our teachers get what they want, but they're not paying in. So there's fewer and fewer teachers paying into the union and complaining about protections. And well, if the union's not protecting you, maybe it's because something's not right. The union doesn't just ditch their teachers. It means something isn't right. And maybe we all need a little more self-reflection. I know I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this topic will continue. You'll hear about it in the budget cycle. For those that have been involved now, I'd encourage you to stay involved. If we want to see this through, it has to happen at the polls too. So I would encourage you to continue to stay vocal, provide your feedback, but we will need this sustained energy through March to make some of these recommendations a reality. All right, we ready to move over to the unreserved fund balance?
well, to catch up a little time, I'm going to touch unreserved fund balance during deliberations.
Okay.
And Dan and Tricia did a great job on facilities, so if it's okay with the board, I could go safety and security and then staffing.
That sounds great.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to give an update to the community on safety and security. I'm doing that across all three districts. First of all, I want the community to know that on a regular basis, we work with the state of New Hampshire's Homeland Security. They come in and they do evaluations to our buildings and they make recommendations to us. You'll see some of those items in the budget. You'll see some of those items just in practices and procedures. One of the pieces that came out of this, and it's now a mandate, but we've been doing it for quite some time, is we're required to have a joint loss committee. And a joint loss committee is a group of educators from across the SAU who, on a monthly basis, unannounced, visit classrooms. And they're looking for safety pieces. So they're looking to see if doors are propped open. They're looking to see if a teacher has, the Tupperware dishes stacked to the ceiling and could fall on a child. They're looking to see if we're using too many extension cords that might be dangerous. Just a host of issues. And a lot of this also leads to all those videos that we have for our volunteers to do. And all our staff go through all that because it's part of safety and security. So it's bloodborne pathogens, it's intruders, it's all of those type of things. That group meets quarterly. When we meet quarterly, in come the Brookline Police Department, the Hollis Police Department, the Fire Department, the emergency response to give us all their input on how they would like to see things done. And let me tell you, it's interesting because fire and police don't always agree because they kind of have two different missions when they arrive on a scene. So it's always an experience. Beyond that, we have the two towns come together and I sit on an emergency management team. So if a tanker truck goes over on Route 13 and spills chemicals, there's a plan for that. How do we protect all the kids? What do we do? every situation is discussed. You know, when the microburst came through, you know, you all got your alerts on your phones and you got the information. That's the group of individuals that we work with. They're letting me know that wires are down, the buses can't get through, you need to cancel school, all of those things. So when we think of safety and security, we need to think of everything it encompasses. In terms of safety and security from the buildings and the tragedies we see, we practice all the mandated drills. And we have to file that with the state of New Hampshire every year. Our teachers have provided training on intruders. We have a host of different levels of training. Tomorrow, our administrators will be over at Hollis Brookline High School, spending a day with the police on intruder safety. One of the biggest things we have learned is to kind of harden the entrances. So if you think about CSDA, if you were here 5 years ago, that beautiful little bank teller window didn't exist, and you were basically into the building. Now, you get in one door, you have to talk to a person before you can get into the building. At RMMS, you know, a lot of talk went into the elevator. Yes, I'm thrilled we're going to have an elevator, but I'm really thrilled that when you walk in that bottom entrance, on your left is going to be the security office where you'll check in. So you're not even anywhere near a child and you're going to check in. And when you go up the stairs, there's going to be another set of doors. And if you're coming in for a special ed meeting, your meeting's going to be out in that area. So you're not in with the children. As much as I hate thinking about some of these things because you don't want a school to be a prison, at the same time, we want to make sure we're providing the greatest amount of safety we can. And one of the critical things is response time. So about a year ago, long before the security safety grants came out from the state of New Hampshire, we started working with the Brookline Fire and EMS, the police, the Hollis Fire, and Hollis Dispatch. And we have put in a request for all 6 schools to get new walkie-talkies that communicate from here all the way to the high school in Hollis. So I could sit here as the principal and know something's going on at Hollis High School, and I can lock down. And I can do all my protocols. And the police are on that, everybody's on that. Right? We've spent extensive time, that's about a $500,000 grant. We're also looking, if you think of RMMS, the Milford Street entrance, many, many years ago, that was the main entrance to the building. All right? We want to change that. We want to change that into some form of an office or something. So in Dan's grant, because his number of staff members is smaller, so he didn't need the same amount, say, as the high school for the walkie-talkies, we included architectural study of what's the best way to address the Milford Street side of the school. Safety also goes into the form of we're going to be doing a construction project during the school year. So that means all of those construction workers are doing their background checks. And those construction workers are not coming off the ground floor. If you went into RMMS right now, the old way you'd come in and go to the office, that's now a sheetrock wall. Can't go there. So nobody from the bottom can get up to the top. It's not one of our emergency exits. It's not how we get kids out in the fire drill. Another element of safety and security. Chief Quigley and I have met on several occasions this year because we will be looking to put an SRO as a warrant article. But we're looking to find out if we're going to be eligible for grant money because we were able to secure an elementary officer in Hollis via grant money. So that's our plan, to look at grant money for that position. We have a wonderful relationship between the two towns, meaning police and fire, they don't care. Wherever it is, they're coming. So as a result, Hollis is providing all this grant information to us to assist Chief Quigley and I again to give us the highest probability of getting that grant for that SRO who would be shared between the two buildings. Later tonight, In non-public, I'll be talking to the board about a couple other safety pieces. This is one of those items that recently became eligible to be discussed in non-public. Because you don't want to sit here and on tape tell the people that might be trying to get in exactly how you plan to keep them out. So safety is always an ongoing issue. I mean, the last thing I would like to do tomorrow, after 2 new days with teachers, which was wonderful, is go spend a day with the police department. But it makes us better. And I'll give you a real life example. I do all the trainings that everybody complains about. I don't like them either. You know, I'm the type of student that if I could figure a way around it, I probably would. But I helped to develop the system, so you can't just turn the music on and listen in the background. You have to answer the questions every couple minutes. Shouldn't have done that, would have made my life easier. But this year, we had a situation occur at the SAU that was an emergency. And what kicked in was the training. All right? I did my part, which was with the person. The assistant superintendent did her part, and it was all because of the trainings. And that's why we do the trainings with your children. So it just becomes a habit. That fire alarm goes off, we're out of a building probably in under a minute. We will continue to make safety a priority. Absolutely #1 priority. I am not going to let something that's going to keep our children safe be cut out of the budget. I might give up an assistant principal for curriculum instruction again, because again, that's one step removed. So like right now, I told you 3 things. You know, that 6th grade teacher, that 6th grade teacher is going to have children in front of him. So from a budget point of view, that's my biggest priority. Do I want that administrator? I certainly do. But if push comes to shove and we can't afford it, it's going again. Will it make their lives miserable? Guaranteed. Guaranteed. But that 6th grade teacher is going to change the lives of kids. So we will continue to update you what we can on safety and security. If you ever have a concern, please don't hesitate. Last month, a person brought up there was an open door. I investigated that. That was an open door during milk delivery. So the person is right inside the door, but it still concerns me. So we'll look at, is there a better way we can do that? But at the same time, that milk truck comes all the time. But we'll look at that. So if you see something as you're going around the building, says, I'm only one set of eyes, you can always send me an email. Tonight there was a comment made, and I want to address it because it's on my paper, and on the ride home it will irritate me, that I didn't get back to somebody. I disagree with that. I met with a person for an hour and a half. It was an area that I don't control, because as superintendent, I have no legal authority over special ed. So I set up a meeting for that individual to meet with the special ed director for the SAU. On that Wednesday night, we had our board meeting, and then that meeting was canceled. So to say I don't get back to people is a pet peeve of mine. Because if you email me or call me, you might not like what I say, but I'll get back to you. So I just wanted to clarify that. Staffing. We are presently, basically, at the same staffing level that we ran last year. All right? So that means I have a professional staff member in every position, but it means, just like last year for the entire year, we're down 4 paras. We're also down the 4 multi-tiered support systems people that we funded in the budget 2 years ago that we have never been able to fill the positions. The bodies just aren't there. I will tell you, I'm really excited. I have a driver for every bus and every van. And we laugh, but I get more calls about buses than anything else, all right? We hope it'll stay that way. And I want to commend our bus company publicly, because they made sure that they matched the starting pay of the neighboring districts around us so we wouldn't lose drivers. And those people go through all those awful trainings and then some. So please understand, they have a great love for kids, and we're thrilled to have a bus driver on every bus, and we're gonna do our best to, if another one shows up, I told them you could hire. I would love to have a spare, all right? I don't think it's gonna happen, but if we can get there, we will. So what I asked the board for is some temporary support for administration, but part of that would be, if I can get the right individual, I would have them do some of the MTSS stuff, because that revolves around data. And at least they could get more data back to teachers, because if teachers have the data, teachers can make adjustments to curriculum, which again, just increases the probabilities of success. If you know of anybody that wants to work in the kitchen, that wants to be a custodian, walk around, if you have a minute, I won't kick you out, I promise, and look at this building. It is absolutely amazing how clean and ready it is to go. And that's 3 individuals, 3 long-time dedicated custodians, and the same thing is happening at RMMS. But we need another custodians. We'd love somebody who has a maintenance background. I can't fix anything, all right? My wife doesn't even allow me to have tools. It's so bad. But we need that support if you can do it. If you can volunteer, please do. You know, if we could get a recess duty off for a teacher or something like that, that would be wonderful. Because we're still going to have people need surgery, have babies, get ill, maybe come down with COVID, and we don't have subs. There's nobody out there. People are not banging down the doors to come work. So if you have a day of the week where maybe your schedule would allow you to work, come in, be a sub, volunteer, please consider it, you know? Then you'll get to see all the wonderful things that the professionals do with your kids, because they do some amazing things. And that would take me to deliberations, if it's okay.
Can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely.
Because I know we tried to build our agenda around feedback and touch on that, but reopening's coming up next week. For reopening plans, are we back to lunchroom is wide open, recess is wide open, and all that? Because I know my kids are, I'm sure every kid's wondering. It's wide open, so that's really, that's thrilled.
If
All
your
right.
family wants your child to wear a mask, they are more than welcome. But everything is right now back to normal, so there'll be 92 kids in this lunchroom, which the kids will love, the teachers won't. Playground-wise, we are not segmenting them. So if maybe they haven't seen their friend last year because they were in different rooms, that's over. And I will do what I've done in the past. I will closely monitor and work with DHHS. And if we need to make adjustments, we will do that. But I'm really hoping for as normal can be, because your kids need it. They really do.
That's great. Thank you. Thrilled to hear that. I'm sure a lot of happy parents and a lot of happy kids tomorrow morning. All right, so we're going to move to deliberations. I'm going to put a motion on the floor first, and then we can discuss, if that's okay. All right, so I will make the motion to retain the sum of up to $140,161 of school fund balance from the FY 2022 school year as the end of year available funds allow. Seconded by Karen. So we've been discussing this, I know, for several meetings. Is there any kind of conversation we want to have here? Or presentation on anything?
I just wanted to kind of remind the community, this unreserved fund balance cannot be spent by anybody without board permission and a public hearing. It is a safety net, and I'll use the most likely example. Something was to break, a significant item, a boiler or something like that, that we hadn't budgeted for. Obviously, we would start out by trying to use the operating budget and see if we can cover it there. But at the end of the year, if that item caused us to be in a state of concern for the budget, this is where we would go. So we have this fund, we have the special ed trust fund, but if the board recalls, we made the decision, we used to have a contingency fund. When the taxpayers approved the unreserved fund balance, we did away with the contingency fund. So this is our safety net.
Thank you. Allison?
Yeah, just to also make sure it's clear in my head, because I think it is, but when the year is done, that money does go back to the taxpayers if we have not used it. It doesn't directly, you're not gonna get a check. That's the other confusion, like it just goes to offset the next.
Well, this is, if you, as a board, chose not to do the unreserved fund balance, it would go back to offset the taxes. So there is a sum of money that will be going back, that the auditors are finalizing, because we just finished our annual audits.
Right.
That's going back to offset taxes. This is us making the conscious decision to have a safety net, that if you didn't choose to do it, would go back to the taxpayers. But every single year, you get that choice.
Right, but that safety net, if it's not touched for that year, it essentially goes back to the taxpayers.
It goes there until you, again, decide in August
Right.
if you're going to approve it. Correct.
Right, so there's a
And
fence
and that
around
can
it, I guess.
vary based on the level of money left, because it's a 5%, correct?
The percentage that I believe Brookline approved is just 2?
2%,
So it's
sorry.
2. The state has approved, we can go up to 5. We have not done anything for a
approved
warrant
2.
article on that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so, and to that point, 2%, we've held this in the budget all year. We've been talking about this for the last few months, and this does align with our budget line items as what we prepare, what we held for this and what we plan to return to. So this hopefully is no surprise to anyone at this point. We've tried to be pretty open about this. Any other comments or questions? All right, this is the formal vote this time. Okay. All in favor? 4-0. Thank you.
And then could I just ask, do you want to formalize a motion on my recommendations, or do you want me just to proceed? I can do either. And what I mean is the climate study.
Yeah, I'll make 2 formal.
Okay.
It's just, I want to be open about,
Yep.
with everything here. So, Dawn, we have someone, Dawn, that makes these motions sound better than they are. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to proceed with a climate study for the Brookline School District to be reviewed and launched in September of this calendar year. Second? Make sense?
So this is just, I want to make sure I know what
Yeah.
I'm approving. This is for you to come back to us with how much this would cost, what's involved in it, and everything else. I want to make
Correct.
that clear. There's no cost to this at this point.
Cost in September, and then we'd launch it based
Right.
off of approval then, right?
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
appreciate you taking feedback and you come up with a plan to address it.
And just so you know, I have reached out to Tom Clausen, who we just brought on board as our legal counsel a couple of months ago, and is a labor attorney expert. This is something he'll be assisting us with, which we may not use Tom, but at least we have his expertise of what we need to do.
Yep. Very good. All right, so we'll have a little more clarity on what that looks like, third-party type thing. I know we talked about, we'll have some more definition there. All right, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0, very good. And then I would like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to review the cost of adding part-time administrative help for the Brookline School District for FY '23. Any feedback or questions, comments there?
That is, again, no cost to us at this point.
At this point, correct.
So I think we'll hopefully have 2 motions to make again in September.
Correct.
Just pointing out for clarity.
Yep.
No, I appreciate it. It helps me.
Okay, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0, very good. And I think that covers everything. Everything else will be part of our budgetary reviews that will be starting next month, I believe. Okay, so the last thing on the agenda is we have a non-public tonight. So I'm going to, thank you everyone for staying. This part gets a little technical and not real exciting, so thank you all for your feedback.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A32, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, And RSA 91A32 to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
Second.
Second?
Seconded.
All right, we'll give it to Allison. And this is a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Allison.
Allison, I.
Colleen, aye.
Ken, aye. So we are in non-public starting at 8:20. Thank you.